So you've likely seen the number 86 making headlines recently, especially with that former FBI director's social media post, the one with 8647.
Yeah, that really blew up, caused quite a stir.
It definitely did. Lots of debate, really different takes on what it meant.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's unpack this, because this bit of slang, it seems simple, right? But it has this surprisingly deep history.
It really does.
And why it's suddenly back in the news. Well, that's revealing too.
Right. So we're going to do a deep dive here. Look into where 86 actually comes from and, how it's changed.
Get the Twitter buzz for a second.
Yeah, let's put that aside for a moment. We've gathered some really interesting stuff, slang dictionaries, Wikipedia, news articles, even a pretty lively Reddit thread.
Oh, nice.
All to try and get a handle on what this term really means and why it's causing such a fuss right now. We want to get past the surface takes.
Absolutely, because 86 isn't just one thing, is it? It's got this kind of dual nature.
That's a good way to put it.
For ages, it's been standard lingo in, restaurants and bars, hospitality industry stuff.
Standard practice.
But then, more recently, it's picked up these other connotations, these other meanings, especially politically.
Definitely. And we need to look at both sides of that coin.
So where should we start? The beginning.
Let's start at the beginning, yeah, with its most established roots. The main meaning of 86, like you said, the one lots of people might know, is from the hospitality industry.
Right.
It's just a quick way to say an item, food, a drink, whatever, is gone, off the menu, not available anymore.
Like, sorry, we're 86'd on the salmon tonight.
Exactly that. And it doesn't just stop at menu items, does it?
No, right. It can be used for people, too. Customers who've maybe had a bit too much or are causing trouble.
They get 86 pans from the bar, kicked out.
So the core idea is always about something or someone being removed or just not there anymore.
That's the gist. But what's really interesting is that nobody knows exactly where that came from. The origin is, well, it's a bit murky.
Really? For such a common term.
Yeah. There are several different theories kicking around, and the sources we looked at, like Wikipedia and that Reddit thread, they really highlight that uncertainty. Lots of possibilities.
Okay. Let's hear them. What are some of the main origin stories?
Well, one of the simpler ones, and the one Merriam-Webster seems to favor, is that it's just rhyming slang.
Rhyming slang?
Yeah, 86 for nix. And nix just means, to cancel or get rid of something.
Nix. 86. Okay, I can kind of see that. It fits the meaning, getting rid of something.
It does. It aligns pretty well. But then you have these other, maybe more colorful stories.
Like what?
There's one from the 1930s. Walter Winchell, the columnist, mentioned some slang used by soda jerks back then.
Soda jerks, like behind the counter at the old soda fountains?
Exactly. And apparently their code 86 meant all out of it.
Huh? A secret code. I love that.
Yeah. And there are others, too. Wikipedia mentions research by Professor Harold Bentley, who found codes like 13 meant the boss is around, and 81 was a glass of water, and 95, that was for a customer skipping out on the bill.
Wow, a whole secret language. That's brilliant. Gives you a really feel for that time.
It does. Then there's another story, maybe a bit more romantic, probably not quite true, but it involves a specific bar.
Oh, yeah.
Chumley's. It's at 86 Bedford Street in New York, West Village. Still there, I think.
Okay, 86 Bedford Street. I see where this might be going.
Right. The story goes that during Prohibition, the police would supposedly call ahead before a raid.
Tip them off.
Yeah, tell the bartender to 86 the customers, meaning shoo them out the door at 86 Bedford Street while the cops came in another way.
Like a secret escape hatch built into the slang. It's a great story.
It's a fantastic story. Wikipedia points out, though, it's just one theory among many, likely apocryphal.
Probably sounds too good to be true.
Maybe. Then on that Reddit thread, someone mentioned hearing it came from old military phones.
Military phones? How?
The idea was, on a rotary dial phone, the letters T and O for throwout are on the 8 and 6 keys.
T-O, 8 to 6. Throw out. Huh, that's clever.
It is an interesting connection, thinking about removal. But other people on that thread pushed back a bit.
Why?
The timing. Rotary phones? Sure. But the TO connection feels more like maybe touch-tone layouts, which came later than when 86 seems to have started in bars.
Ah, okay. So the timeline might not fit perfectly?
Yeah, it just shows how tricky tracing slang origins can be. Lots of debate.
And I saw something else on that Reddit thread, too. 68.
Oh, yeah. The opposite.
Meaning something's back in stock.
Exactly. Like the salmon's back. We're 68 on salmon. It shows how the slang developed its own, internal logic. even antonyms.
That's cool. So lots of theories. But the most likely, according to the experts at Merriam-Webster anyway, is the rhyming slang one. Nix.
Based on the evidence they've gathered, that seems to be the front runner. It's the most probable.
Okay. So it starts with getting rid of menu items, maybe unwanted guests. How does it broaden out from there?
Well, over time, according to Merriam-Webster, it just sort of seeped into more general language.
Beyond just bars and restaurants.
Right. It came to mean, more broadly, just to get rid of or to discard something. Anything, really.
Like, I need to 86 these old shoes. Or maybe 86 a bad habit.
Exactly. That core idea of elimination or getting rid of something just carried over. Thesource.com actually backs this up, listing synonyms for eliminate or dismiss, like moot, bounce, can, fire, throw out, all that same vibe.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. A pretty natural kind of evolution for a word. But this is where it gets a bit darker, isn't it? This other meaning that popped up.
Yes. This is the really controversial part, especially now. Some slang dictionaries, like Cassell's, starting from the 70s, and the new Partridge Dictionary of Slang from 91, they list a much more serious meaning for 86.
Yes.
Specifically within U.S. slang. To kill, to murder, to execute judicially.
Wow. Okay. That's a massive leap from being out of suit.
It's a huge shift. Really changes the whole feel of the term.
But is that meaning common? Like, is it widely understood that way?
That's the key question. Merriam-Webster actually seems a bit hesitant about fully adopting that definition. They note it's much more recent and seems to be used way less often than the original hospitality or general get rid of meanings.
So it's maybe more niche? Or still kind of developing?
It seems that way, which of course brings us right back to the Comey thing.
Right. The incident that put 86 back on everyone's radar.
Exactly. So May 2025. Former FBI Director James Comey posts this picture on Instagram. Seashells on a beach.
Arranged to spell out 8647.
Yep, with the caption, "Cool shell formation on my beach walk."
And that did not go over quietly.
And not at all. It just ignited this huge firestorm. Comey himself explained it later.
What did he say?
He said he meant it politically. 47 referred to Donald Trump, potentially being the 47th president. And 86 just meant, get rid of something unwanted. Vote him out, essentially.
Okay, so using that general get rid of meaning, that sounds like his explanation.
From his perspective, yeah, pretty straightforward. But the reaction from Republicans, especially Trump and his allies, was completely different.
Oh, so?
They latched onto that other slang definition, the kill or murder one.
Seriously?
Yeah. They interpreted 8647 as a threat, maybe even inciting violence against President Trump. Trump himself apparently said Comey was calling for the assassination of the president.
Wow, that's taking it to a whole other level based on a less common slang meaning.
It really is. And it wasn't just talk. The Trump administration actually announced the Secret Service was looking into the post, investigating it.
So, real-world consequences. Did Comey leave the post up?
No, he deleted the original picture eventually. And then he put up another explanation, kind of doubling down on his intended meaning, the political get rid of one.
Man. Just shows how loaded language can get, doesn't it? Especially in politics today.
Totally. And it's worth noting, this wasn't the first time 86 popped up in political talk, though maybe those other times didn't carry the same immediate violent interpretation.
That's right. I remember seeing Matt Gaetz tweeted something back in February 2024 about 86ing McCarthy, McDaniel, and McConnell.
Yeah, exactly. The meaning seemed pretty clearly about removing them from power, getting rid of them politically.
Right. Not, the other thing.
Well, no. And Governor Whitmer in Michigan also got some criticism for using the term. Again, the context seemed to point towards the general get rid of meaning, something undesirable, not physical harm.
So context is everything here. The same term used differently, interpreted differently.
Absolutely, which highlights how subjective slang interpretation can be. And adding numbers like 47 makes it even more complex. We actually look at this interesting article from PNAS, Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences.
Okay, about what?
About how we understand numbers when they're not meant literally.
Non-literal numbers. How does that relate to 8647?
Well, the article talks about things like hyperbole or how we understand round numbers aren't always precise. They call it the pragmatic halo around numbers.
Pragmatic halo.
Yeah, basically meaning context and shared understanding heavily shape how we interpret numbers, not just words.
Okay.
So in the 8647 case, you have the number 47, which in that political context points very specifically to one person. That charges it with meaning.
Right, it's not just any number.
Exactly. Yeah. And then how you interpret the 86 part gets filtered through that specific context and through the very public, very tense history between Comey and Trump.
Ah, so the baggage between them becomes part of the context.
Absolutely. So even though 86 has its main harmless meaning and this less common, more aggressive one, the specific situation, who said it, who it was about, their history heavily swayed how people understood 8647.
Makes sense, which really leads to the big question, right? Why does this old bit of restaurant slang suddenly become national news? What's going on there?
It really shows the power of language, doesn't it? How just a phrase or even numbers and slang mixed together can be loaded with meaning.
And how that meaning can be so different depending on who's talking, who's listening, and what's happening around them. That Comey-Trump history you mentioned clearly shaped how different groups saw that post.
Definitely. The existing connotations of the words, the political climate, the personal history, they all act like filters. We process the language through them.
And like that PNAS article suggests, even with something seemingly straightforward like numbers, we bring our own baggage, our own assumptions to how we interpret them. It's not always literal.
Precisely. Leading to very different understandings.
Okay, so let's try to wrap this up. Key takeaways. 86, it has this long history, mostly harmless from the hospitality world, means out of stock or get out.
Right, the primary meanings.
Then there's this more recent, much less common slang meaning about violence, about killing.
Which exists, but seems pretty niche.
And the Comey 8647 post, the interpretation was massively debated. It really depended on context, politics, history, and which meaning of 86 you focused on.
Exactly. It was a perfect storm of ambiguous slang meeting a high-stakes political conflict.
And it leaves you thinking, doesn't it? How easily can language be turned into a weapon? Or just completely misunderstood?
It's a really important point. This whole 8647 thing, it just shines a spotlight on how sensitive language is, how much our own biases and the situation around us shape what we hear.
Yeah. What does it say about things right now politically when a couple of numbers and some old slang can trigger a federal investigation?
It definitely gives you food for thought.
Yeah.
And really, we've only kind of scratched the surface here. The world of slang, how it evolves, how it picks up new meanings. It's fascinating.
So many layers, even in words we think we know.
Indeed. Hopefully this dive gave you a bit more insight into just how complex language and communication can be. And maybe it makes you curious to look closer at the words we use every day.
Definitely something to mull over.